Hello, art historians, and we are back with another of our videos for Southeast and Southeast Asia, and we are continuing our study of China. So last time we were together to look at China, we studied these early images, the terracotta warriors for Emperor Qin's mausoleum. We looked at the funeral banner of Lady Dai, also called Jin Shui. We examined the Longmen Caves that almost bankrupted China at the time, but then was luckily saved by the Tang Empire. And finally, we did Travelers Among the Mountains and Streams by Fan Quan. So today we're going to continue our study of China and its art by studying we're going to look at the David vases. And these are really, really critically important works of art in that they are the first pieces that we've done that are made of porcelain. Now, if you, like me, have a grandma that had really good dishes that she would only bring out at certain times, and if you ever saw those dishes were always called the good china. And when we're talking about people referring to plates and things like that as china, the reason that we do that is because it is based on the fact that those dishes are made from porcelain, and porcelain was an art form, a way to make pottery so that it is very thin, very delicate, and we're used to, when you hear somebody say the good china, we're talking about porcelain. And so if you look in your notes, you'll see that porcelain translates to shell-like, and basically it is a ceramic material, a little bit like the clay that we would use to make terracotta, except it's a much more pure clay. The big chunks are out and stuff like that. It includes a material called kaolin, also called china clay, and it requires very advanced kilns because porcelain needs to undergo a process called vitrification, where it hardens, and that vitrification takes place at incredibly high temperatures, around 1300 degrees. And so what we're looking at is an art form that took our previous pottery to a much more advanced level. And here you see white porcelain. A way to decide, or a way to determine if something that you have is porcelain, if you hold it up to the light and then you put your hand behind it, if you can see the shadow of your fingers through it, that's porcelain. It means that it's been fired at a high enough temperature and it has undergone that vitrification. So what you see here is a type of porcelain that was made in the 1350s. Now, what you have to understand about porcelain is the Chinese figured out how to create porcelain really around 600. So why don't we see any works of porcelain prior to this? Well, that would be because these are considered the greatest examples of Chinese porcelain. For a couple of reasons. One, because of the detail of their decorations, because of the shape of them, because of the story that goes with them, and because of the coloring. What they had to do was they took cobalt and put it before it was fired, and so that when it was fired in that kiln, the cobalt becomes like this bright blue. And so the cobalt is not native to China. It's from Iran, so it would have been imported. And what's cool about these pieces is, in addition to having that kaolin clay and the high temperature of vitrification and the use of the cobalt, we're looking at the fact that it is a part of a three-piece set. But Ms. Horman, there's only two. I'm going to talk about that in a second. It's part of a three-piece set that was created for a Taoist temple. And so, when we're talking about what Taoism is, it is a Chinese philosophical teaching that really emphasizes the idea of being honest and of not interfering with the course of natural events, not trying to make huge changes in the way that you're just supposed to let life happen. And you do this by focusing on where your part in the world is and focusing on doing your part in the world. Now, these were given as an offering to a Taoist temple. These two vases, which are based on the form of old bronze pots, and they also include an incense burner, which is still lost. And how do we know that these were given to a Taoist temple, and how do we know that there were three of them? Well, we know that because there's actually an inscription on them. I'm going to scroll forward a little bit. Here, there's an inscription on them that tells us that they were made and donated during the Yuan dynasty for this Taoist temple, and it talks about the fact that it was part of a three-piece set of two vases and an incense burner. So we're able to know that. We are also able to see these beautiful elephant head handles. We're able to see these beautiful dragons. Remember, dragons are the symbol for immortality. And there are beautiful phoenix birds at the top. So we have all this really beautiful Chinese iconography. These are considered some of the best examples of Chinese porcelain. And the dedication on this pot, which you can see is only on the one side of the one vase, right? The dedication here tells us by the date of it that it is the earliest dating and dedication on any blue and white pottery that exists. So we can without a doubt say that this is the earliest we have of dedicated blue and white pottery because of the date that is given to there. So why are they called the David vases? Well, this is one of those moments that really upsets Mrs. Horman because I get really mad about it. They're called the David vases because Sir Percival David bought them separately in order to reunite them. And he continued to look for the incense burner, and then they were given to the British Museum. And so why does that upset me? Well, it upsets me because these vases are named for the British person who bought them, but they're not attached to the Yuan dynasty where they were created. They're not attached to the area of the world where they were manufactured. And it's troubling to me that they use Sir Percival David as the name for them, especially since China has become such a it's just used to describe porcelain because China is where porcelain was made for hundreds and hundreds of years, and it's such an advanced science to be able to do the vitrification at that high temperature. And it's mildly frustrating to Mrs. Horman that they're named after the dude that just happened to put them together in the 1800s. So that's just my own personal complaint there. So we're going to scroll forward and do our next image. And you're seeing where we're seeing a lot of these different, this is where we just were for our vases. And now we're up here in Beijing, which is the capital of China. And so we're going to do what is probably one of the most famous structure communities in the world. And so it is called the Forbidden City. I have a lot of pictures for you, and a bunch of them are not your actual images. And so what you're looking at is this. It was created by the Ming Dynasty, and it was the Chinese imperial palace from its creation in 1420 until the Chinese dynasties were overthrown in 1912. So this was a huge deal. It was the home to 24 emperors, and it really is an example of absolutely breathtaking and amazing construction. So you're looking at, it was in the Ming Dynasty, it was begun in the Ming Dynasty, and goes all the way up to the Qing Dynasty. And you're looking at a bunch of buildings that are constructed in a variety of ways. Majority stone masonry, with some marble and some brick, wood, particularly for the roofs, and ceramic tile for some of the decorations. Now, when we're talking about this, I want you to look at some of the numbers that are there for you on the screen. So when we're looking at this, we're talking about a huge complex, 180 acres. The walls are 26 feet high, and they are then backed by a moat that's 20 feet deep. And 171 feet wide. So the problem is with the moat, it's no longer, we're not really using the moat anymore because the majority, like Beijing, has grown up around it. But we're looking at what was a giant complex that was used for a multitude of reasons. We're looking at 980 buildings total in the complex, so almost 1,000 buildings. And we're looking at pagoda construction. So it's that architectural construction where the image is repeated vertically. So the one that is, up above the next one looks just like it, but is a little bit smaller. And so what do I mean by that? So here you see this roof line comes out, and then this roof line comes in, and it comes in just a little bit smaller. So that's a pagoda. Pagoda construction. And so what you're looking at is, it is called the Forbidden City because it was, no one entered or left this walled city without permission of the emperor. And then, like I said, it was home to 24 different emperors. It is made up now of the largest collection of preserved wooden structures in the world. The structures themselves are wood. And I think I misspoke before, and I said that the roofs were wood. The roofs are not wood. The roofs are tile. The structures themselves are wood. I'm sorry about that. I just remembered that I said it. So the structures themselves are wood. The roofs are tiled. The majority of the buildings are painted red. Construction took place over 14 years. Like I said, it was begun in 1420, so ended, the major amount of construction ended around 1435. There were over 1 million workers that were tasked with creating this complex. And when you're looking at it, you're looking at an inner and an outer court. And I'm going to zoom in just a second, but we're looking at an inner court towards the back, which was for the residency of the emperor, and the outer court towards the front that was used for ceremonies. So I'm going to just scroll in so you can see the outer area. This is in the front where you enter, and the outer area was for ceremonies, greetings, stuff like that. This inner area towards the back housed those the residences, the things for day-to-day affairs of state. And so you're looking at it surrounded by this giant wall and a moat. There were gardens on 3 sides on this outside edge of the moat. So there were gardens there. The walls were both defensive and retaining walls. And the very front gate.
Good afternoon, Damascus High School. We are reaching the end of another great day here at Damascus. That was the warning bell to start to get ready to make it to your bus. So you make it to your bus on time and you do not get left behind. We will end instruction today in approximately 9 minutes. So please start wrapping up and hope you had a great day and have a nice afternoon. Thank you.
Okay, so we're the first week back of people coming back, entering the building for coronavirus. So we're still getting used to having everyone back in the building. So sorry about that interruption. So I was talking about how the walls were defensive and retaining, and there were gardens on three sides. And the very front gate is also called the Meridian Gate. And the Meridian Gate is, it has a couple of names. The Meridian Gate, it's also called the Main Gate. And it is the southern gate, the gate that is the most southern, and the gate that is the largest. And unlike the rest of the gates that you see here, there are some gates here and here and here. You know that it's the Meridian Gate based on those two arms that are protruding from the gate there. So those are our vocabulary words that we learned, and I want to just scroll and I want to show you this. This is one of your actual images, so being able to identify the floor plan, but I'd also like to show you that this is a much more detailed version. And so you have these turrets at the corners, and you have these other gates here, the gate of tranquility, supreme harmony, benevolent tranquility, the heavenly gate of purity, and then you're looking at the hall of preserving harmony, the hall of supreme harmony, the gate of supreme harmony, and the Meridian Gate. Okay, so you're looking at these buildings that look sort of similar. The Meridian Gate is easily identifiable by the fact that it is that wall and has the three entrances on it. The Hall of Supreme Harmony is identifiable by these sort of ramps that are there, and we'll examine those in a minute. And then you'll see that you can see the moat on the outside exits into the city at this turret and that turret, or this gate and that gate, the main Meridian Gate, and again off the back at the Spiritual Valor Gate. Then there's a really cool little river that runs through here, and we have the 5 bridges. So these are some of the more important or more popular or documented parts of the Forbidden City. As I said, Meridian Gate, 3 doorways in the wall. Then you have sort of the 5 bridges, Hall of Supreme Harmony with these sort of ramp ideas. Okay, and so when we're looking at the floor plan, you can see also that look at how many different buildings there are. And there are gardens here, you can see a garden here. And so you're looking at a large complex that is created for the emperor and for his what's the word I'm looking for? I just lost it. And his all of his royal people that are with him, his court. That's the word I was looking for. So his royal court. So when you're looking at, you can see that it is a really complex and detailed, huge construction. This is another way to look at it. I really like this map. Again, this is not a map from the College Board. It's not one of your required images, but here you see again the gate, the moat. You see the Meridian Gate, which you can identify by those arms that stick out, and the 3 doorways. You can identify this is the Hall of Supreme Harmony, which you can identify by those really cool ramps that are on them. We're going to look at the Hall of the Palace of Tranquility and Longevity. We'll look at that. And I want you to sort of get a general idea of look how sparse it is here in the front, right? And then how busy it is back here in the back, because the front was for ceremonies and the back was for everyday, day-to-day living. Okay? And so the king and the court could go in and out of this gate without having to deal with going in and out of the Meridian Gate. Here's another map. I have a million maps here, and that is because I'm just trying really hard to give you the the overall concept of just how giant a complex this is. And so, here you see the 5 bridges over the water. You see Chinese lions everywhere. You see, the pagoda building with the 2 roofs. All right, so I'm just trying to sort of let you see some of what's going on, and really the hugeness, vastness of the complex. So I'm going to come back to the beginning and show you what you're required to know. You're required to know this. Okay. This is the back, the gate of divine prowess. This is the very back entrance. It doesn't have those 2 arms there because the 2 arms are on the Meridian Gate. This is the gate closest to the where the emperor would be able to leave and go from that back entrance. And notice it is divine prowess because that's at the back and used by the emperor. And so, we want to make sure that we get across that the divine prowess, that is his gate. So that's your first image, the gate of divine prowess. Okay. Your second image is the aerial of the floor plan. Okay. Your third image is a picture of the Meridian Gate. Okay. And we often see the Meridian Gate with a picture of Chairman Mao on it. And that's easy. It's one of the 4 main entrances, the biggest entrance, and it's the one with the 2 arms that come across. And you also see this huge bridge walkway area. So this is the Meridian Gate, the southernmost and the most used gate. Okay, this is beautiful. This is the Hall of Supreme Harmony. And here you see that pagoda roof again, the beautiful tile, decorative tile here, the beautiful gold leafing and the red paint. And so the Hall of Supreme Harmony is identifiable, and I told you it looks like 3 ramps because they're stairwells, and when you look at it from above, it looks like a ramp. And then this is actually a frieze that is carved and that laid down in the ground. So the Hall of Supreme Harmony is closer to the south. It is the largest of the buildings, and you see its dimensions there: 115 feet high, 210 feet wide, 121 feet long. It's a gigantic building. And the reason that it is so big is because it would have been used for ceremonial purposes. It is 98 feet above the square, so it's raised up. This is from the square to here is 98 feet. And so it's a huge distance to cover. And it is the largest all wooden structure in China. So when we're talking about it being important, this is a big deal, right? This is a huge construction, and it's the largest all wood building in the entirety of China, a country that is famous for building wooden buildings. It used to be called the Hall of Supremacy, but they changed its name, the emperor did, to the Hall of Supreme Harmony. And that happened under the Qing dynasty in order to emphasize the concept, the characteristic of harmony, not so much to focus on supremacy, being better than everyone else, but to focus more on the idea of coming into harmony with others, which is really, 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 when we're looking at how often China was at war, it was a thing that Emperor Qing wanted to focus on. Then we move into the Palace of Tranquility and Longevity. And what you see here is a place to have tea ceremonies and a little indoor, it's like a little indoor court inside of a building that's meant to make it feel like it's outside. So this was built by Emperor Qian, who he was waiting to retire. He was ready to be done being emperor, and he wanted to retire. And so he builds this building. Sorry. craziness here. He builds this palace of tranquility and longevity because he wants to retire and then enjoy his retirement. And so this is a way, while he's inside, to feel like he's also outside. So there's these beautiful murals and a little house built inside, a little tea house for him to have tea ceremonies, and a place for him to be inside while also feeling like he's outside. It actually mirrors the creation of this building, actually mirrors the creation of the Forbidden City itself, in that there's like an inner courtyard and an outer courtyard. And it has some very famous murals and screens in there, as you can see, with these beautiful paintings of reproductions of the Forbidden City from the outside. So it's as if this house were outside. It's very, very cool. I'm going to scroll. This is the Golden Waters Bridge, right? Those 5 bridges. And here you're looking into the complex. And I want to bring up that as we are looking over the complex, it's really, really cool that most of the main halls are grouped together in groups of 3. So here you see 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And because 3 is a number in Chinese belief that is representative of heaven. You're looking at some of these buildings have different colored roofs, and you'll see that the buildings with black roofs are a library. And the reason for that is black is the color of water. And what is the one thing that you do not want to have happen in a library? Fire. So they painted the roofs of the library black to be the color of water to prevent, they believe, to prevent fire. Roofs that are completely yellow are the roofs that belong to the emperor. In 1925, there was an audit where you do an accounting of things. There were 1.17 million pieces of art. I mean, so almost 1.2 million pieces of art, 350,000 pieces of ceramics, 50,000 paintings, 30,000 jade pieces. I mean, it was a huge museum complex. In 1987, the Chinese government began a construction that basically brought the Forbidden City back to its pre-1912 war state. So they began construction in 1987. In 2003 or 2004, the construction was finished, and the Forbidden City now is in the condition that it was in before war. And you're looking at, the classical, construction, of temples. Your temples are in the front, storage and residence is in the back, similar to the construction of Persepolis or something like that. Okay, so that is our next image, and then we have one more for today, and then we'll be done with China. And there's just so many beautiful things here. I'm so overwhelmed by how beautiful the Hall of Supreme Harmony is. It's just a beautiful, beautiful construction. All right, and then we're going to do this one, Chairman Mao, on route to Anyang. And what you're looking at is a lithograph, and we will talk about what a lithograph is when we get into contemporary art. But basically, when you're dealing with a lithograph, you're taking a stone, and you draw on the stone with like a greasy pen marking thing. And then you treat the stone with a chemical that would allow you to sort of etch into the stone. And then the drawing can be inked and impressions can be made. It's a very cool process. And what it allows for is mass production, like mass production. And so that's really, really an important thing. It allows, because it's stone, unlike a woodblock print, because it's stone, it doesn't degrade as quickly. And so you can make a ton of copies. And so this color lithograph, they believe, is the most reproduced image ever. They believe that there are over 900 million copies of this particular piece. Not a piece that looks like it. Like, there are definitely like a billion copies of the Mona Lisa out there, but from different images and different whatever. And those are photographs. These are lithographs. And so this image was reproduced 900 million times. And as I said, they believe it might be the most reproduced image ever. So who are you looking at? Who is Chairman Mao? We're looking at Mao Zedong. He was the communist revolutionary who basically became the founder of the People's Republic of China. And he ruled as the chairman of the Chinese Communist Party from the time that he established the People's Republic of China in 1949 until his death in 1976. There was a huge cultural revolution where we're really dealing with a move towards full communism and the embracing of communist ideals. So you're looking at a story of Chairman Mao in the 1920s. So this image is set in the 1920s. And so in the 1920s, Mao Zedong wants to try to fix the problems that were created by the dynasties. And he wants to stop the infighting in China, and he wants to unify China in this moment, to allow for things like better wages, better working conditions, better education. And so this is that moment in 1920 where he leads a miners' strike. He leads the miners on strike. And he basically convinces them that if they strike, there will be no way for the regular old guard, people in charge to stop them. So Chairman Mao was in charge of the Red Guard, and the Red Guard is a youth group that was formed to attack sort of the old way of doing things, and to have there be a new way of doing things. And so one of the members of the Red Guard, Lu Chunha, he makes this oil painting, which then, by an artist that we are unknown who that artist is, an artist turns that oil painting into a lithograph, and then multiple copies of it. And so what we're looking at is, you see Chairman Mao, and he is walking with a purpose. He is very clearly on a mission. And so I'm going to zoom in a little bit, and you can see down here what's that called? Telephone pole. And you can see that telephone pole off to the side, because he is walking forward. He is moving. You can see him. His one hand is gripped in what appears to be, he's focused on what he's doing. And under his arm, he is holding the umbrella, and that umbrella is sort of this image of him moving forward, leading the country into this new new way of doing things. And he's surrounded by these images that help us identify what's going on. So we've got the phone pole over to his left. There's a dam that's blocking the river over to his right. We're trying to focus on the traditional Chinese umbrella. We're trying to focus on all of these things that he's trying to move into this industrial society. He is trying to bring the Chinese back from famine. They were a mostly agrarian society. He's trying to move them towards being a more industrial society. He is pictured here in traditional clothing so that you identify him. You see him as one of the people. Often, majority of the images of Chairman Mao are done with him surrounded by everyday people. So the idea that this is him by himself is unusual. But here he is young. We're looking at works that are similar to works that were being created in Russia as a way to do art for propaganda, as a way to bring the people, to gather the people around a leader, Mao Zedong or Lenin or Stalin, and a way for peasants and soldiers and workers and farmers and all of those people to feel like there's someone that is working for them. And so, as I said, your artist here is a member of the Red Guard whose job it was really to create propaganda. Look at all of these like beautiful, cool colors that are used, the blues and the greens and the purples. But look at how he's moving forward, and his coat is blowing in the wind, so you can tell that he's going forward. His face is very determined. He looks like this is that moment that he is making a difference. And it is actually in the 1920s when this happened. This was a moment where it really did cement people to Mao Zedong's cause and caused a lot of the Chinese to follow behind him in this move towards a communist China. They really believed that his determination and his leadership would bring them to a place where they would be better off. And so when you look, you see all of this fog that is around him. You see all of this mist that is around him. And so that mist and fog is indicative of the immortals, the immortal leaders. And so he has been with the immortal leaders in this mist and the fog, and he is moving with them into this next thing that is going to happen. And this depiction at the bottom says, in the autumn of 1921, Chairman Mao went to Anyang and personally lit the flames of the revolution. And so this really marks that day where Mao he's bringing the people forward into the next era for China. When he was young, he did in fact walk down to the coal mines and bring the leaders of the mine workers to go on strike. And the idea here is to show him as being sort of idealized, this strong hand of determination, these places where we see the dam and the phone poles, this connection to the ancients while also moving forward. It's a really strong composition, and it is a really great place to end our study of China. So I will see you next time when we study Korea, and I will leave you with this beautiful image of the Palace of Tranquility and Longevity, where the emperor sat and wished for his retirement, and I will see you